Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
And I'm Jenny.
Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons. She's amongst us. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'm supposed to say more after that. Thank you for joining us for episode 271 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today, we'll be discussing chapter 45 of A Feast for Crows, that's Samwell 5.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. Unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers, then we are going to spoil things for you. But regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarize what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show. They will indulge in a little pedantry that I will ignore and cover some relevant news and listener correspondences.
Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. Well, how are you both? It's
hello.
Great to see you.
Now we can say officially hello and welcome to Jenny.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, yes. I mean, it's fitting, right? You've been part of this A Feast for Crows journey, so it's only right that you're here when we wrap it up.
Well, thank you. Hopefully you'll have me at least once for a Dance with Dragons.
Gosh, I hope so.
That sounds reasonable.
There's about 1 million chapters, so
right? It's much bigger.
This is clearly just a memorable moment for all of us.
I'm sure Simon will remember this moment forever.
Sorry.
For those, when did that come up? That came up on an episode, right? That wasn't a.
It did.
Yes, it's come up on an episode multiple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how's everybody doing?
Well, yeah, Jenny, you've got to fill us in. Me and Mackelly find out about each other on a weekly basis, but we only talk to you every Preston Guild.
I'm doing great.
That's some Lancashire thing that happens like once every very long time.
Oh.
So I use that. A Preston Guild. I'll find out one day what it means.
Okay. I didn't know what it meant.
Sorry.
I was just going to roll with it.
Yeah, I know. Back to you, Jenny. Sorry.
We're already gearing up for Valentine's Day at my shop, so...
Yes, I bet you are.
Fun times.
Yeah. So that's in what? That's just under a month.
Yeah.
And it's already... So what do you do? You're ordering the flowers and such
ordering
right now,
the flowers,
right?
all of the glassware, making 1 million bows,
oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't start putting the bouquets together yet, right?
Oh, definitely not. No. No.
Okay,
But
so yeah, it's just
we
prep work.
We get a refrigerated truck, and because everything that we sell won't fit in our shop, so it's like a refrigerated semi.
Oh my goodness.
So we do start greening at some point in time before Valentine's Day, and then all those go on that refrigerated truck.
Wow.
You don't have to work on the refrigerated truck, though. You can pull them out to...
Right, no, it's freezing in there, so I would protest.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow. Well,
it's fascinating to hear about other people's jobs, really.
Right.
You'd never think of that.
No. When you think of a florist, you think, of the front end work that we see. Yeah. You never think of all the things that go on behind the scenes, so...
Well, I've worked at another shop that didn't do all the prep work that we do, and the other one was a nightmare. It was a lot of hours, like late into the morning. So.
Oh goodness. Well, it's good to be prepared ahead of time, then, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Dr. McGrother, you have anything going on?
Well, I have a couple of stories. I feel like my stories. I feel like my stories are how we fill time when it's just me and you, Mackelly, but I feel like my stories are beneath Jenny in some ways.
Oh, not at all. I love your stories. Your stories make me laugh.
Well, this one probably will, actually, because this one made me laugh. So, I've been doing yoga.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This has come up. I'm doing this yoga class with Carson.
We heard it in chipmunk style this past week.
Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that the yoga teacher... I don't have a feeling that the yoga teacher likes Carson. He clearly likes Carson, but I think he really likes Carson, if you get what I mean.
Oh, sure.
And I can't blame him. She's pretty. I like her too. But I think it's created just a little bit of frost between me and him. Because he sees me and he thinks, I'm better than this schlub,
Right.
Look how much more flexible I am. So he he always ends the class with like 5 minutes of just lying there doing nothing. Yeah, where we're supposed to sort of like, set up, reset our minds kind of thing. And so I'm lying there last 5 minutes, eyes closed, and he walks past and kicks my elbow. Now, I'm sure he didn't mean to do that, but it made me open my eyes. It didn't hurt or anything, but it made me open my eyes to see him laying a blanket over my wife as she lies on the floor.
So she got a blanket and you didn't?
Yeah, I don't know where the blanket came from. I never saw the blanket when I closed my eyes. He must have run out and grabbed a blanket.
Now, first of all, there's only just the three of you in the class, right?
No, word has got out. There's now 4 participants,
well,
and the teachers.
So
there's
it's
5 of
doubled.
us.
The participants have doubled.
It's very cold, so it was cold. I will give him credit. It was pretty chilly last week for just lying around.
All right. Well, I was going to make the argument that he had plenty of space to navigate around you, that he didn't need to take your elbow out in the process.
I was within arm's reach of her, so it made a certain amount of sense.
Right. Okay. In his haste to make her as comfortable as possible, he kicked you. Right. I get it. I get it.
So you've seen there's a show on Peacock called Lockerbie?
Oh, you asked me to watch it, and I forgot.
Did you watch any of it?
I didn't until just this minute. I forgot. I know you gave me one piece of homework, and I totally forgot.
So yeah, Lockerbie was the town in Scotland where the Pan Am flight crashed after it was blown up in 1988.
Okay.
There's a TV show starring Colin Firth.
Oh, I like him. Sure.
Bigwig of British cinema.
Yeah.
And Colin Firth plays this. He's a guy whose daughter was on the flight. And he sort of like campaign for justice sort of thing. The show's very interesting. It's very good. But what the reason that this is particularly interesting to me is that my brother knows the guy who Colin Firth is playing.
Oh, wow.
He, the main guy in this show, has been a repeat visitor to the farm in France.
Oh.
And my brother's knows him quite well. They've had long chats.
Very cool.
That is cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Rob, tell you what, he's always surprising you. You just just never know where he's going to show up.
And if you watch the show, this guy meets Colonel Gaddafi. So this guy has met my brother and Colonel Gaddafi. I am curious who he preferred. That's what I'd like to know.
That's a good question.
We'll have to dig into that.
Who did he find a bigger threat to world peace?
Right. Well, sounds like everybody's doing pretty well then. So I think it's time for Simon to do what he does.
Let's get down to business.
All right.
How did we leave Samwell Tarly? Last we saw of Sam, he was adapting to life on the Cinnamon Wind while mourning the death of Maester Marwyn. He and Gilly became intimate, and she pronounced herself his wife. With that, the guilt of breaking his Night's Watch vows set in. He began hiding from her so as not to face what he'd done. Ultimately, Gilly explained that she knows she can't keep Sam, but there are no weirwood trees on the open sea, so while they're on board the ship, they can act as husband and wife. Jenny, Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
All right, a summary that Jenny wrote, by the way. Let's give her proper credit.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Sam's travels on the Cinnamon Wind are coming to a close as they pass through the Redwyne Straits. The route is perilous in the absence of the Redwyne fleet, and the Ironmen are sacking Rhymesport and capturing Vinetown and Starfish Harbor.
From those spots, the Ironborn are now raiding ships that are headed into Oldtown. Longships are spotted 3 times from the Cinnamon Wind, although 2 were outpaced, and 1 was chased away with a single volley from Koja and her archers.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Sam is sad as he points out the seat of House Costain to Gilly, which means their journey is almost at an end. Jondo remarks that a battle must have been fought here not long ago, with the sound being full of corpses and burned ships, including 2 large dromons.
The next day, they are approached by a war galley and 2 smaller ships from Oldtown. The captain comes aboard to inspect the ship and cargo. While apologizing, he explains that a fortnight ago, Ironmen captured a Tyroshi ship and impersonated them so they could sail into Oldtown in disguise. Their plan was discovered when a ship hailed them in the Tyroshi tongue, and the Ironmen could not respond.
Sam worries that even though Horn Hill is pretty far inland, it might not be safe. He considers keeping Gilly in Oldtown or sending her with the Cinnamon Wind to the Summer Isles. Having her stay with him would require his desertion of the Night's Watch, and the latter plan would not keep her out of harm's way with the strait being in such dangerous conditions. He ultimately decides to send her to Horn Hill.
The ship arrives in Oldtown amid thick, cold fog that limits visibility. A boom is stretched across the harbour, linking 24 rotting hulks. Behind that stands a line of warships, including 3 large dromons and Lord Hightower's towering 4-deck ship. Sir Gunther Hightower boards the ship to conduct another inspection. He speaks the tongue of the Summer Islanders, so he and Quirrell Mo go off to have a private conference in the captain's cabin. Sam takes this time to explain his plans to Gilly. First, the Citadel to deliver his messages, then he will arrange for transportation to Horn Hill for her and the baby.
At the seneschal's court in the Citadel, the acolyte on duty takes his name and tells Sam to be seated until he is called for. He is left waiting for half the day as others come and go. After dozing for a time, a young person addresses him and mentions that he must give the acolyte a penny or he will sit there for days. The youth introduces himself as Alleras, often called the Sphynx.
Sam blurts out Aemon's line about the Sphynx being the riddle, not the Riddler. But Alleras can't explain what it means either. When asked, Sam tells Alleras his business at the Citadel. Alleras knows of Maester Marwyn and asks why he was at sea at his age. Sam decides to tell him everything, and I mean everything, ending with Daenerys being the only hope for Westeros.
Alleras tells Sam that the seneschal Theobald will not believe Sam's tale and urges him to come with Alleras to see a different archmaester, Marwyn. Sam recognises Leo Tyrell outside the archmaester's office, who belittles Sam and Alleras. Upon entering the room, he spies a tall black candle that turns out to be obsidian, and there's another novice in the room as well.
Sam repeats his tale to the archmaester, who is familiar with the prophecy of Azor Ahai, but he does not trust in prophecy. Marwyn thinks it's good that Maester Aemon didn't arrive, stating that the other archmaesters might have killed him.
When Sam asks why, Marwyn implies that the maesters killed all the dragons the last time around, and they don't have any place for magic in the world. Marwyn announces he will go to Dany, and that Sam should stay and forge a chain quickly.
Alleras is to look after Sam. After Marwyn's departure, Alleras admits that Marwyn already knew of Sam's coming thanks to the glass candle. The other novice tells Sam where he'll be sleeping. Sam mistrusts the lad's face. After Sam introduces himself, the novice states his name is Pate, like the pig boy.
Oh boy.
We came full circle in this book. You know.
Yes, we did. We did. We will definitely
with Pate.
Get to Pate and the pig boy. But...
It's nice that over the course of the book he learned to embrace the pig boy.
Yes, that's what it is. It must be. What else could it be?
Yeah, it couldn't be anything else.
Do you know that I read that Sam has been missing from our hearts and minds? Well, maybe not minds, but this book was published in, 2005? So we have not seen Sam since then.
Wow.
2005?
2005.
20 years.
That is 20 years.
Yep.
So poor Gilly has been stuck on that boat for 20 years.
They're still rowing. That's what it is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It is something.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I mean...
He has had time to forge a chain.
He has. I hope he's forged all the chains.
Exactly.
He could be the Grand Maester by now.
He could be.
So the first half of the chapter is the approach to Oldtown. And it's clear that the Ironborn are having an impact, which is in turn eroding the alliance between the Reach and the Iron Throne. I'm not sure that that's necessarily would have reached, sorry to use that word, the ears of the Tyrells yet. But I mean, these are the Tyrell's Benarmen, and they're annoyed that the Redwyne fleet isn't there to protect them.
Right.
And that ultimately is going to... There's already enough tension between the Tyrells and the Lannisters. They don't need any more, but this is adding to it.
Yeah. And what we're learning here is that this Ironborn invasion is not being contained to just the Mander. Now, here they are in the Redwyne Straits, which is the southern part of Westeros, latitudinally even with Dorne. So we are very far south here. And, the Arbor it's a pretty important area of the Reach. I mean, obviously the wine, they use wine for everything in Westeros. But it's also the home of one of the most powerful navies in Westeros. So if you can capture their home port before the navy returns, that would be probably a big win for the Ironborn. They haven't yet, just to be clear. So far, it seems like they've just taken some small towns and little islands throughout the area, and they're using those as ports to launch attacks now on the traffic headed toward Oldtown.
Right. Yeah, I was going to mention the geography just a little bit for those who aren't reading along. So Highgarden is up the Mander, which is further north and sort of runs east-west, whereas Oldtown is at the mouth of the Honeywine, which runs more north-south, and it's on the sort of southern coast as the continent curves around. Where the Shield Islands are that the Ironborn were using as their base, they're at the mouth of the Mander, so they're not quite as close. But like you say, they've been picking up towns closer and closer to Oldtown and using them, adding more and more stops to their, bases for their operations.
Right.
And even with all of the precautions we saw being taken against the Cinnamon Wind's arrival, there's clearly been fairly substantial battles been going on here in the mouth of the Honeywine. And as you say, that's between the Honeywine comes out where the island that is the Arbor sits, right? So that the Redwyne Straits separate the two.
Right.
And so it's strategically and commercially very important part of the Reach.
Right. I mean, you can make the argument that Oldtown is one of the most important, possibly the most important port in all of Westeros. And even Sam thinks that if the Iron Throne loses Oldtown and the Arbor, the whole realm falls apart, probably due to the lack of wine, would be my guess.
It's the richest city.
Everyone's going to sober up. It's the Arbor is Oldtown is. Yeah,
Oldtown is the richest city,
yeah. Yeah. Right. Now, under normal circumstances, if you want to create havoc and get the Iron Throne's attention, this is the way to go. But we know Cersei has had pretty much been just focused on herself. And now, last we checked, she wasn't really in a position to do anything about anything. But so maybe things will change if Kevin or Grand Maester Pycelle or Harris Swift or whoever's going to be making the call, maybe they will start redirecting things to help alleviate this situation.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
So Sam and Jondo are discussing a symbol that they see on a couple of the larger dromons, and neither one of them know whose symbol it is, but it's Euron's symbol.
Right.
Remind us what it looked like, Jenny?
It's 2 crows carrying a black crown above a red eye.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's
I can see the connection to Euron there.
Yeah. Crow's eye. He's got the crows. He's got the crown.
Yeah.
Because he now considers himself king.
Yeah.
And he's Crow's eye, so we got the eye.
Did they have a crown, the Ironborn?
Don't they call it the Driftwood crown?
Yes, Driftwood crown. And the chair is the sea stone chair. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
That's what I thought it was too.
Okay. Yeah. We need to be in an Ironborn chapter for my mind to be thinking about this properly. But so those ships that they're seeing and they're having the discussion about, those were some of the few long ships that they saw that had been destroyed. But there was many more fishing ships and merchant ships that they had seen. So there's been a lot of destruction thus far down this way.
I still don't get the Ironborn just generally. I mean, I sort of get like pillaging and taking slaves and that kind of thing, but it's like surely you want to go home after you do it. You do that, you get it out of your system, take your plunder home. It just feels like what Euron is asking them to do has got to be against their nature. Like,
Right.
we're camping out here and then we're just raiding and like our pockets are already full. There's nothing more we can do.
But do
Right.
they actually want to go home? Everybody that's Ironborn, they always talk about how much it sucks on those islands.
That's true. I just don't know do they honestly think that they can hold the entire reach? Like that seems ambitious, I will say.
Yeah, we tried north of the neck. Let's try south of the neck.
Right.
See how that goes.
Try the southern part of Westeros. Now, I do
the other 6 kingdoms.
I mean, it's likely will ultimately be a diversion, right? They're trying to create a diversion that will ultimately put Euron on the Iron Throne, because the last time we saw him in Victarion, weren't they discussing that Victarion will become Lord of the Iron Islands when Euron becomes King of Westeros? So whether they think they could actually take the entire reach or not, I think this is strategic. What the havoc they're causing here.
Yeah, I take your point, but still, what's in it for the rank and file? That's the bit that I don't get. As a rank and file, reaver,
right?
I want to reave and take the plunder home, and
you have to wonder,
drink and tell stories about my reaving.
How many Ironborn are there in total? I mean, I know we don't have a number really, but if Euron becomes king of Westeros, are there enough Ironborn to even really enforce that?
That was my argument against just taking the north. We argued that they didn't have enough of a force to hold the north, let alone hold all of Westeros.
Yeah.
But I think he has the play. He's got that, dragon binding horn, so he claims. So, I think he's planning on using dragon or dragons to make up for the lack of men, I guess.
He's going to have to find a horn blower who didn't witness the last time it was blown.
Right.
Nobody's taking that job.
The guy that was sick that day.
What happened to the last one? Oh, he just retired.
Right.
He'd had enough. All right, so the locals are awaiting the return of the Redwyne fleet, but meanwhile the Hightowers are busy defending Oldtown. So Lord Leighton Hightower has been shut up with his daughter Melora, who's known as the Mad Maid, and her spell books. Melora is the second child and oldest daughter, and she never married, but she's an adult, right? She's not a child.
Yes,
she's
very much an adult, yes. Which is...
Again, I do wonder if other languages have a different word for child, meaning young person, and child, meaning offspring.
Oh.
To distinguish those two things.
Huh, yeah.
Because I am my parents' child, but I'm not really a child,
No, that's true. You're definitely
not
a child.
When you see it written...
Non-English speaking people chime in.
Right.
Yeah, that's what...
It's kind of an odd description, right, of how Leighton Hightower is dealing with the Ironborn problem. Locked atop the Hightower with the Mad Maid studying spellbooks, maybe raising an army from the deep. So, it's not how your traditional lord of a major seat might be handling the situation.
Definitely not what Sam's father would be doing.
Right. He would not be up there with Sam.
True.
Or his oldest daughter looking through spellbooks. But it's said that Leighton hasn't left the tower in 10 years. So, he's a bit of a recluse, I guess, if you haven't left your castle in a decade.
I actually think that Leighton Hightower is just Quincy Cox with better PR.
Yes. Right, both of them hold up in their castle.
They both ran, shut the doors, but Leighton Hightower went, you know what? I'm busy doing something, don't you worry.
Right. I'll be
in
ready.
In defense of you all.
Yes. Yeah. You'll wait till you see. Wait until you see what I've got planned. I'm going to save you all. But his oldest and heir, Baelor, he is busy building ships, which is great. I'm sure that's going to very much come in handy, especially since they've been here without the Redwyne fleet. But what Baelor is best known for us, the listeners, is as Baelor Breakwind, when he broke wind in front of Oberyn and Elia Martell on Elia's prospective suitor tour when they were younger. So, hopefully for the rest of Westeros, he's known for other more important things. But for us, the A Song of Ice and Fire readers, that's probably what he's best known for. Now it's for building ships, of course.
He's really hoping to be known as Baelor the Shipbuilder from now on.
His personal coat of arms.
So Gunther, the second youngest, is in charge of the harbor. So, I mean, he could clean up these ships.
Right. And
I think they're partly on purpose, right? I mean, that they're part of the blockade, yeah.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Do you think so?
I'm sure there's I think it's both. There's a lot of
I understood it to
ships.
be so. Yeah, as you go across, they took shipwrecked ships and put them on one bank. They put shipwrecked ships on the other bank, and then they put the boom chain across between the ships, rather than having to have a chain the whole length.
Right, but aren't there ships before that? Because it said the journey was
I think
perilous.
Those need clearing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Gunthor is also the one that boarded the Cinnamon Wind here in this chapter before they entered the port. Yeah. So he's out working. Right. We have visual proof that Gunthor is doing his job.
Yeah. Garth is the fourth oldest child. He's the second son. He's training new recruits, which obviously could be useful. Should war land on the land?
Right. Yeah. But I think Humphrey might have the most interesting job, at least to us, because he's gone to Lys to recruit cell sails from as the captain of the Huntress, the first ship that boards the Cinnamon Wind. As he puts it, if he can get a proper fleet from that whore sister of his, pardon my vulgar vocabulary, I'm just repeating the words, and of course, who he's referring to is Humphrey's sister, Lenise Hightower Mormont, who is Jorah's ex-wife.
In what way would she have control of the cell sails of Lys?
So it's said that she has more control over the merchant prince than anyone else, even his wife. It says that even his wife is in terror of her, so she probably could ask him for the ships and he would give them.
Because he is her concubine, correct?
She is his concubine.
Typically it's considered
the other way around.
Did I say it the other way around? Yes. She is his concubine. It might be the other way around.
It's very woke of you to say it that way around, but I think realistically.
Yes. So that's why Humphrey, who's the youngest, has gone to Lys to try and get more ships already built, so that Baelor can take his time, I guess, from his sister, who hopefully has control of some that she can loan him.
I love the richness of this story. I mean, I'd forgotten Lenesse Mormont existed. And then suddenly she just pops back up, and oh yeah, of course she would be there,
right?
And she would have concubines.
She would have concubines. Now he does have he has 4 other daughters, right? Allery is married to Mace Tyrell. Then there's Denise, Layla, and Alisan. And, they're all married, and so they might possibly not be physically in Oldtown, and that's why they're not as involved as the rest.
Is Allery the young Tyrell's mother, or is
yes.
Is she a more recent wife? She is.
No, she's
married to Mace.
She is. Yeah. She's Garland.
So is she Marjorie and...
Yes.
Yeah, Marjorie, Garland, and
mother.
Loris's mother, correct.
Oh, yeah. So news of the widespread Ironborn invasion has got Sam worried about the plan to take Gilly and the baby to Horn Hill. And he's kind of right to think about that, and I think part of it is because he knows what happened at Winterfell.
Right.
You would think Winterfell was perfectly safe from the Ironborn, but if you're not careful, safe castles can fall to the Ironborn.
Exactly. I think it's a pretty apt comparison. The Lord and the major part of the garrison are off fighting, so the castle's lightly held. They're far from the coast, so, you think they should be pretty safe. And then they turn out not to be. And, with news of the Ironborn ravaging the Reach, I'm wondering if more lords are maybe having the same thought as Sam here about their castle and Winterfell.
Yeah, because don't we hear that some of the people are asking to go back to their castles? Didn't we just hear that recently?
We did in the Riverlands. Some of the River Lords
the
were
Riverlands,
asking.
So
sure.
I'm sure that everyone's thinking that at some point.
Right. Yeah. And especially since Qyburn told Cersei that the Reach armies are headed for King's Landing and not for Highgarden and the rest of the Reach. So, their liege lords are not releasing them. They're actually sending them, into another possible siege of another city. So could be even longer while they wait, while their home lands are possibly being ravaged.
It's a thought, though, isn't it? That Mace is bringing the armies to King's Landing because of what's happening with Marjorie.
Yeah.
But knowing that the Redwyne fleet still isn't on hand to defend the rest of the Reach, he must be tempted to send the army in the other direction, which would kill those two birds with one stone. It would help protect the Reach from the Ironborn and also bring those lords back to their homes to make them a little bit happier, and the soldiery as well, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, it would then ease the pressure on King's Landing, and so Marjorie's plight doesn't get dealt with.
Right. So, if it was anyone else but Marjorie, it would be a different situation. But, he's not gonna leave her in the situation that she's currently in.
Yeah.
But, so Sam determines that, he's worried about, like you said, he's worried about Horn Hill. And so he thinks, well, maybe it would feel awful if I brought her all this way through all this peril to send her to Horn Hill, only to have the castle be invaded and her to be, harmed. So maybe I'll keep her here in Oldtown where it's safer because there's more people and there's bigger walls and all that. And then he thinks, but if I do that, the longer I stay with her, I'm going to lose my resolve to leave her. Mm-hmm. And it comes down to either I have to leave Gilly or I have to desert the Night's Watch. And I get that. I do. But on top of that, he's about to double down on the no wife and children vow when he becomes a maester. He's double layer vowed here. So
maybe they cancel.
Maybe
it's a double negative.
Yes.
If Maester Aemon had 3 wives at the wall. What are you talking about?
Yeah, if it's true, if he can't separate his vows from Gilly, at this point, if he keeps her in Oldtown, just trade in your blacks for some browns, dessert, just hop back on the Cinnamon Wind and head somewhere like the Summer Isles or Essos.
I will say in passing that if George Martin was to sort of follow through on this worry of Sam's and have poor Gilly dragged off to Pike to be the salt wife of some stinking Ironborn, I would be like, dude, you've got to stop. This is just not fair. This poor child.
I know, right? Oh, God.
What has she been through?
That would be too much. I think people would riot.
Right.
I think so too. I would.
They would riot. They'd riot so much that George just might stop writing.
So rather like Sam being worried about a possible eventuality, George Martin is having the same problem.
That's right.
So the second half is more to do with Sam, his intel, his introduction to Oldtown. He tries to get in to see the Maesters to present his news, which is what Maester Aemon charged him with. The seneschal Theobald keeps him hanging around because Sam doesn't know he's supposed to pay a bribe. Fairly reasonable of Sam. He's a young man who hasn't lived in the world very much. He wouldn't know this. Plus, where's he going to get that from? He's from the Night's Watch. It's not like they get paid.
Well, plus he had to sell everything he owned just to get here, so he wouldn't have any money.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Luckily, he only needs a penny. But,
yes. But he's sort of bailed out from this by meeting Alleras, who we've met before, refers to himself as the Sphynx. And when that word is spoken, of course, Sam remembers Maester Aemon's ramblings in his last few days, where he said the Sphynx is the riddle, not the riddler. And Sam blurts that out in Alleras' hearing, so Alleras hears that, but has no clue what it means either.
Right.
But actually, I think secretly Alleras does maybe know what some of it means. Like, yeah, I guess I am a little bit of a riddle.
I think so, but
yeah, that's true.
He can't say anything.
Right. Yes.
And we'll tell you why in spoilers.
He's not going to admit to that right there and then. I get that. But he must have been thinking to himself, dang, how did that old man know?
Right.
It's been 1,000 miles away. I've been here for like 10 minutes. And somehow.
Yeah. So, but in this chapter, Sam comes across 2 instances of sphinxes. There's a stone pair of sphinxes flanking the entrance to the Citadel. One is has a male face, one is a woman's face. And then there's Alleras. So, if we examine them as possible candidates, if we start with the stone statues, what does that mean? Does that mean that the Citadel in general is the riddle? Is it the problem, not the source of the solution? Like that doesn't make any sense, because he insists that Sam talks to the maesters. That's his whole mission. Go talk to the archmaesters. So then, if he was saying the Citadel is the riddle, not the riddler, what would he be meaning by that?
If this was Scooby-Doo, then the secret would be hiding inside one of those sphinxes. You just rip its face off and discover it was the carnival owner all along,
Exactly. Unfortunately, we are not in Scooby-Doo world, so it may or may not be the case. But so is it meaning figure out what's happening at the Citadel? Is that what he's trying to say? That there's some plot or rogue faction with a secret mission? And Marwyn seems to back that. He makes that comment about, it's best that Aemon died en route, because otherwise the maesters may have killed him, which we can get to more shortly. But is he implying, it sounds like he's implying the maesters are working on a master plan to rid the world of magical powers, like dragons, spells, glass candles, and all that. So is this a viable candidate for this? The Sphynx is a riddle, not the riddler.
You know what? When you started that monologue, I was like, why is he even saying this? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit at all. But as you went through it, I began to think, well, actually, you could think of the Citadel as being a place where you are questioned. It is the place where riddles are put to you. But the argument for it's the riddle, not the riddler, could be there's a secret here that needs to be unearthed, which could indeed be what you're saying, Mackelly, that it is their wanting to end magic, which if they do that, that would be bad news for Daenerys, presumably, because Daenerys sans dragons just looks like a little girl far from home.
Yeah. Well, then let's just finish this thought then with Marwyn. He implies to Sam that it was the maesters that killed the dragons. Now, I would contend that the Dance of the Dragons played a pretty major factor in the dying out of the dragons as well. But, maybe they saw an opportunity to fill a power vacuum when the dragons were heavily reduced. We know that the last dragons were small and ill-formed. Maybe they were poisoned by the Citadel to rid the world of them.
Didn't you always think, though, that the dying out of the dragons was more to do with the sort of the Targaryen bloodline becoming less and less Valyrian and becoming...
Yeah, that makes sense too. That's obviously a possibility.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Just the sort of natural demise of them as a, they were the last true people of old Valyria, but generations down the line, the dragons were like, we're not we're not connected to you. But why Danny would be a throwback, I don't know, you know.
Right, yeah.
But maybe it goes to what you're saying. She's got away from the Maesters.
Oh, yeah. Maybe it's that. Got closer to the, old Valyria.
Right.
I do kind of think they had something to do with it.
Interesting.
They don't like magic. Marwyn is the only one at the Citadel who supports it. That's a full-blown maester, anyway.
Yeah, and we saw the way that Lewin reacted to Bran and Jojen.
Exactly.
And he had a Valyrian steel chain, which means he studied things like magic.
But he thought it was a bunch of nonsense.
Right.
He didn't have any tolerance for it either.
He also made a kind of a point I hadn't really thought about why a resource such as Maester Aemon would have been wasted away at the wall for his whole life and not made an archmaester, and he blames it on his Targaryen blood in connection to dragons. I'd never thought about the fact that maybe Maester Aemon, who's, clearly capable and, probably skilled enough to have become an archmaester, was never even, I don't know if he was considered or not, but he certainly wasn't made one.
Okay, but if you think about it, there was a council that asked him to come down and be king. And he turned that down.
So maybe they figured, well, if he doesn't want to be king, he's certainly not going to take this role.
Right.
I'm holding out for Archmaester of the Citadel.
Right.
Now, that is an interesting discussion, though, because I hadn't really thought about all of those things. That they, if he was a believer in magic and sort of like a proponent of it, getting him to the wall out of their way would have been like, oh, that's nice, actually. He'll be really good for the wall.
Yeah.
And also, that's one less voice. Now we just have to send Marwyn to Essos and hope he meets somebody who kills him.
That's their master plan.
Yeah. But the funny thing about trying to rid the world of magic, it feels like the only way you would do that is by doing something magical.
Huh. Rid the world of magic by doing something magical.
Well, how else would you do it? I mean, you'd have to believe in magic to rid the world of magic, You're going to build a machine that sucks up magic? You'd have to believe in it.
Maybe they do believe in it, but they don't want everybody else to believe in it.
Very nice.
There you go.
Very true.
Yes. So then the other option for the Sphynx is Alleras. Does he fit in any way other than what what we'll discuss in spoilers? I can't imagine.
Well, it definitely fits for what we discuss in spoilers. He definitely fits for the riddle, but why he would have been thought to be the Riddler is the bit that's missing. Why would you think? If Alleras comes at you with questions all day long, then suddenly I'm like, oh, actually, I got it.
And how would Maester Aemon possibly even know that this young acolyte exists?
Magic, Mackelly. Magic.
Yes, that's the answer. And that's why they didn't want Maester Aemon around.
Yeah.
But he is in league, he being Alleras, is in league with Marwyn, and Marwyn is up to some things. He's got this glass candle, and we know this whole pate thing we'll get to shortly is odd, and so possibly there's more going on here than meets the eye, and in some way maybe Alleras is more important than we realize.
One of Maester Aemon's last words was to mention, well, okay, if you believe that it's Alleras, which I do, was to mention Alleras. So they must be important in some way.
I guess
I don't
so.
know how.
Okay, do you guys really think the weirwood was dying? I know it said that there were some dead branches, but it also said there were some live branches. So I didn't really take it as dying, maybe just stunted or something,
Yes. Well, yeah. So what Jenny is talking about is there's this ancient weirwood in the yard of the Ravenry, which is where Marwyn's chambers are, and Alleras takes Sam there, and Sam sees this just huge ancient weirwood, and he describes it as having a carved face, nearly all weirwoods do, but that the face is grown over by purple moss, and that moss also hung from limbs. but then half the branches seem dead, and there are a few red leaves clinging to other branches, and so it looks like it's not flourishing. We'll say I'll say that much. But here's the thing: we know that werewoods can live forever unless they've been disturbed. Now, maybe all this city growing up around its roots is disturbing it, but you would think, if there's any place that has the knowledge and resources in herbology and arborology, I don't know what arborists science is called, but it would be this place. You'd think they would be able to keep this thing flourishing if they cared to.
Maybe that ties into the magic thing.
Yes, exactly. We just talked about them trying to rid the world of magic. Does that include werewoods?
They didn't cut it down, which is an interesting choice. They've left it there.
Right. Yeah, that is an interesting choice. Maybe.
But maybe because it's a weather vane of how well they're doing.
Oh.
If what they do makes it die, then hey, success.
Right. Each leaf that falls
off. They chop
off.
it down, they don't know.
Maybe. I wondered if that purple moss, it's grown over the face. Is that to to prevent green seers, which are thought to be extinct anyway, but to reduce the magic, they can't see what we're doing. Maybe the moss is poisonous in some way because it's hanging all over that tree, and it's slowly killing this weirwood.
Does the face have to be visible for the green seers or, say, Bran to see out of the tree?
That I don't know, but that is a good question.
I always assumed yes, which I always thought was a sort of shortfall, because if anything happens around the back of the tree,
right. As long as you're behind the
just
face,
run around the tree.
You're good. Do whatever you want. Yeah,
exactly.
You can run amok over there.
I got a secret to tell you. Come with me. So Leo Tyrell, who we met in the beginning, in the
prologue.
Was it prologue? Yeah, the prologue to Feast for Crows is still awful. He was pompous ass then, and he remains that now.
My question is, why hasn't Grandma Tyrell, Lady Olenna, smacked some sense into him? None of her other children act that way.
Yeah, I know, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He's
And you'd think the one who gets shipped off to the Citadel would be the most bookish, the least
right
like that. The one who gets shipped to King's Landing might turn out like that.
I was actually surprised I was surprised Sam admitted that he knew him. It didn't seem like Leo recognized him right away until Sam reminded him, "I'm Sam Tarly. We know each other." And then he says, like you said, he's awful. Leo says a terrible thing, which could be true, quite honestly. He said, "Oh, your father said you were dead, or maybe he just wished you were dead." Which,
charming.
Honestly, there's as much chance that that's true as it is him just being hurtful.
Also, he said before that, he said, "Are you still Craven?" Which is a nice opening gambit. I haven't seen you for ages. Let me start with
that, right.
A slur upon you.
All right.
So we have waited 4 books to get an introduction to Marwyn. We heard from Mary Maester that she met him, and he taught her English, and she probably taught him a few things as well. And also by Qyburn in A Clash for Kings, mentioned that he also knows Marwyn.
That's right.
He's on the pages for 2.5 pages, and then he's gone.
I know, how disappointing.
When I first read these books, I was like, "Wait, what? Where's he going?"
Yes, that was disappointing. We're like, "Oh, we're finally meeting him," and there he goes.
Yeah, I mean, he's an important character in that he has met people and given them knowledge and wisdom and gained knowledge and wisdom from them, and they have used it in the rest of the book. But yeah, he did not want to be on screen. That's for sure.
And it turns out...
He was ready to go the instant Sam opened his mouth. He's like,
Right.
all right, I'm on a ship. See ya.
And it turns out that he respects prophecies even less than you do, Simon. He doesn't seem to buy into that the prince who was promised prophecy. Well, I would say, not that you don't... You're making a face, and I would say it's not that you don't respect prophecy. You just say that a prophecy can lead to a fulfillment of that prophecy that was brought upon by the creation of the prophecy in the first place.
Thank you. That's my position on prophecies. Jenny.
He doesn't believe
Yes,
in prophecy, but he is the only maester at the Citadel who believes in magic.
Right. How about that? He's complex.
Well, again, as you've made the point to me earlier, he's not the only one who believes in magic.
He's
the only one who embraces
True.
magic.
Yes.
True. That's true.
Right.
He's the only one who admits to it.
Now he rushes off to try and reach Danny before the Citadel's man reaches Danny. So, I mean, first off...
What's he going to tell her? I kind of... Just remind me why he felt the need to just go there and then.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with Aemon's thought that Danny is the best hope for Westeros.
Yeah.
And so he's going to go guide her.
Feels like you could pack your bags for that kind of news.
You've got...
It's not like you're about to stand on a bear trap. It's,
Well,
you'll be a good queen.
He's trying to beat the Citadel's man, the other person that they're going to send.
Right. Oh.
So when Sam...
I see.
When Sam shows up, I think they're going to figure out what's going on, and they're going to send their own person over there, and he wants to beat that person to Danny.
Yeah.
But if Sam doesn't share that news, that's a big leap. Oh, look at this. Look what's happened here. The Night's Watch have sent Sam Tarly to become a maester. You know what this means? That means Daenerys Targaryen is the great hope for Westeros. There's a lot of water being carried by that particular...
Probably, as they report town and rumors continue to come across from Essos that there's dragons in Slaver's Bay.
And of course, Marwyn may not believe that Sam will keep stum.
Well, true.
Sam came to tell the Citadel this news, and so...
Yes, that's true, yeah. That would be a big, really big help for Danny to have his guidance, I would think.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, if you look at his acolytes, they have a sort of patchy record of doing nice things.
You're right.
That Miri Master and that Qyburn, they're not,
That's true.
Not the straightest shooters in the book. Yeah, so Marwyn tells Sam that he knew Sam was coming. Well, actually, I don't think Marwyn actually says that. I think Alleras maybe is the one who tells Sam that.
Yeah.
But that Sam's arrival was known because of the burning glass candle. We've come across the burning glass candles before. Euron mentioned a burning glass candle. And I think we talked at the time that this was a sign of dragons or increased magic and or dragons in the world,
right?
Which is why the obsidian candles would burn again. But they are obviously more than just a beacon of this, because they are used for things such as farsight and remote communication, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. So, like a global communication intercom system.
Yeah. And Marwyn actually believes he knows everything Sam's going to say before he says it. He just wants to hear it all. And that's enough for Marwyn.
Yeah. Now, we also know that there is a glass candle in Karth owned by Urathon Nightwalker. And we've had this discussion before as well, that some believe that Urathon Nightwalker is actually Euron Greyjoy, because Urathon is an Ironborn name, and there was once a Urathon bad brother, and Euron is nothing if not a bad brother. So, and actually, I came across this, that in an early draft of A Clash for Kings, Cresson lights a glass candle before the comet arrives, and Tyrion sees a lit glass candle in Grand Maester Pycelle's chambers in the Red Keep. So, I mean, I guess that didn't make it to the final cut, but he seems like George Martin did have some plans for the glass candles that he
decided to make
back.
them a little bit rarer and more special, I guess.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think that there's a fast track to forging a chain?
An executive program.
I think George Martin has demonstrated amply that there isn't.
Yeah, he says, so Marwyn tells Sam to forge his chain quickly. Well, I mean, we just met Lorcas. He is the gatekeeper to the seneschal. He's been an acolyte for 50 years. Aemon, who we all deemed to be very intelligent, took 9 to 10 years to forge his chain. So, what time frame are we looking at?
All
here
of these
for
people
Sam?
had distractions. Sam is going to be single-minded. He's going to just do. He's not going to get distracted by Gilly.
Right? Yeah, he's got nothing else going on. Yeah. Sure, I'm sure he can.
There's
power
trouble
through
there
it.
too. Yeah.
Yes.
So, the other person I was very surprised to see here at the end of the book, because I thought he was dead at the beginning of the book, was Pate. Pate, who used to hate the fact that his name was associated with Pate the Pig Boy, but now actually he introduces himself as Pate, like the Pig Boy, as if he is not the same person.
Yes. Curious.
Something we felt like he was killed at the end of the prologue.
Right.
Now maybe he wasn't, but if he was killed, then this is an imposter Pate.
Yeah. So
this might be Jane Westerling.
He has decided that pigs are awesome. He loves pigs. So
right.
Yeah.
It was the scare with the coin with the alchemist where he was like, you know what? I actually love pigs.
Pigs are great.
I love Pate the Pig Boy. So here's our options, right? He survived the poisoning, or what we thought was a poisoning, when he bit into that gold coin. He died, and the alchemist has taken his identity. Is there another option? Are those the only two?
Beric Dondarrion.
It could be Beric Dondarrion.
It's Ned.
I mean, just to remind people, because it's been quite a long time, almost exactly a year since we discussed that prologue. Yeah. The alchemist was described as having the same features as Jaqen H'ghar after Jaqen H'ghar changed his appearance in front of Arya. So I say the alchemist has taken his identity. Possibly he now looks like Pate, who he killed off.
And that's the thing. You couldn't just dress up as Pate and get away with it because he had friends who knew him. You have to change your face too. But it does feel like of all the characters in this book who can do that, Jaqen H'ghar is the one. So maybe this is Jaqen H'ghar. And Sam didn't like the look of this guy's face.
Yeah.
It's enough for me to be suspicious.
Yeah. I mean, he seemed likable enough in the prologue, you know?
Yeah.
I wondered if Marwyn could possibly know that he's not the real Pate, having seen it through the glass candle, possibly.
I guess you can only look at one thing at a time. Yeah. He's probably thinking of the geopolitical things rather than, is that the real Pig Boy?
Right. But like you said, just to repeat it, because it was brings us full circle, A Feast for Crows began with Pate, and it ends here with Pate.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to spoilers. You can get the spoiler section if you join the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainers at one of the upper tiers. All right, well, considering how little we have to go on, those were excellent spoilers. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Mackelly. Mackelly, do you have some background for us?
I do. So when the port of Oldtown comes into sight for the Cinnamon Wind, the dense fog makes it so that the only thing visible to Sam is the beacon atop the High Tower. And we also learn that the members of House Hightower are hard at work keeping the city of Oldtown safe from the Ironborn, as we discussed earlier. House Hightower is the lordly house in Oldtown, and quite honestly, with good reason. They've basically overseen the city rise up from the tiny trading post it's believed that it had originated from in the Dawn Age to the thriving hub of knowledge and security that it is today. House Hightower's castle is the High Tower, obviously, that dominates the skyline of the city. And atop the tower burns a bright beacon, the color of which sends a message to those who can see it. The primary purpose of the beacon is to act as a lighthouse for ships coming and going on the Whispering Sound. However, the color can be changed to convey different messages. For instance, if the beacon is green, it's a sign that House Hightower bannermen are to rally to them for war, which we saw a really cool scene in House of the Dragon where Alicent Hightower comes out in a green dress to signify she's not going to be pushed around. Anyway, in the early days, the High Tower was a wooden structure which was continually rebuilt higher and higher by successive High Tower kings. It was King Uthor of the High Tower who is thought to have commissioned either Bran the Builder or Bran's son Brandon Stark to build the massive tower we see today. And when I say massive, I mean massive. The tower is the tallest structure in Westeros, taller even than the Wall, although not quite as tall as Casterly Rock, but that is a rock. And it's the tallest tower in the known world. And it's not only Oldtown that the High Towers have had a hand in the development of. Remember King Uthor, I mentioned him just a minute ago. Well, he had two sons, Uragon and Paramore Hightower. The younger son, Paramore, was known as Paramore the Twisted because he was born with a twisted back and a withered arm. However, possibly due to his physical limitations, he was known for his thirst for knowledge. He surrounded himself with the leading minds in many areas, like teachers and priests and healers, singers and alchemists and sorcerers. But unfortunately, Paramore's life was not a long one, and when he died, his older brother, now King Uragon, granted a large piece of land near the Honeywine to Paramore's pets, with the mission of continuing their quest for knowledge as Paramore would have wanted. Thus, the Citadel was born along with the Order of Maesters.
Well, I did not know any of that. Thank you, Mackelly.
Certainly.
Really
that was a fun one. I enjoyed putting that together.
Yeah. So comparison with the television show, there isn't really anything to compare here. Sam and Gilly and Gilly's actual baby make the journey, but they go directly to Horn Hill. So that does happen in the TV show. I don't know if that's a spoiler for the book, but when Sam does get to Oldtown, his letter of introduction is met with some skepticism. News of Mormont's death has not arrived, but that seems a bit strange that news of Mormont's death wouldn't arrive. I would think that the Wall would have sent news out of a new
Lord Commander.
Yeah. But he is admitted as a novice. There's no Alleras, there's no Marwyn, there's no Candle, there's no Pate, there's no fake Pate, there's no plan to protect Dany. So none of that happened.
Okay.
Pedantry corner. Just one thing. Sam latched onto the Sphynx thing as soon as Alleras said, I'm known as the Sphynx. But he walked past two Sphinxes without ever crossing his mind.
Right. He didn't think, wait, are you the riddle?
Yes, exactly. That's what I wanted him to say. Plus, that would have made our discussion about which one was the riddle, not the Riddler, more interesting if he'd gone, are you the riddle? Are you the riddle? Are you the riddle? Anyway.
Yeah. Jenny, you got anything for Pedantry Corner?
Jenny has gone temporarily deaf.
So news and notes.
Well, we have a sustainer call coming up on Tuesday, January 21st. So if you're a sustainer, that means that you are getting this a day early. So if you haven't already gotten the email, I did send out the email. I know I checked the email list to members this time. So Jenny, can you confirm, did that email make it out there?
Can confirm.
All right. Good. So hopefully we'll see you all on the 21st. We're looking forward to it, as we always do.
Jenny, are you going to come, or are you going to be like, I've had enough of those two?
Oh, I'll definitely come.
That's like 6 days from now.
I'll be there.
All right. I think our charm was thinner than you think it does. And we have a new sustainer. Someone, I mean, that is their name, someone, has joined us at the small council level, which is very exciting for us. Thank you so much. We look forward to interacting with you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's very exciting.
Yeah. All right, let's conclude this one. Sam's been in Oldtown for 5 minutes, and he's already involved in a plot to usurp the Iron Throne. Was that the mission, Sam? I don't think it was it?
No. Stay the course, Sam. Get your
So let me see. You've got a wife. You're planning to just...
You let Maester Aemon die, you've taken a wife, and now you're caught up in a plot. Sam, pull it together, man.
Sam, honestly, I can't give you a bonus this year. I'm sorry. And I'm worried about Gilly, because Gilly and also the body of Maester Aemon are on that ship, and it feels like they're going to get neglected for a whole book here. And 20 plus years.
Right. Yeah. They're growing old on that boat.
It's going to be 40 years.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so Marwyn's on his way to Dany. Having him in her corner could be helpful. Given his views on things, I think he'd be a lot more helpful than the other person, maybe coming from the
Agreed.
Citadel.
Yes. You got to wonder if their mission is to rid the world of dragons. What type of advice is that Maester going to be feeding Dany if he got there first? Why don't you try putting those dragons, submerging them underwater and see what happens? I bet they double in size. I bet they become like gremlins.
Why don't you feed them these green sheep? There's nothing wrong with them. What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so Marwyn could be, really helpful. She's already got Barristan Selmy, so that's someone that I personally respect, and I think will help her. And having someone like Marwyn, who knows what's going on in Westeros that Barristan, doesn't know, might be helpful as well.
Yes.
And then we get to the Sphinxes, right? I mean, Sam has uncovered 2, well, technically 3, because there's 2 Sphinxes, 2 stone Sphinxes. And then the other is Alleras. But is he any closer to unraveling the riddle? I mean, no, I guess not. He's not anyway. We've made some conjectures, but
I guess when you've got a riddle, when you have a riddle about Sphinxes, you're closer to finding the answer to the riddle once you've found some Sphinxes. So
True.
In that respect, he's closer.
That is true.
I don't think he's much closer, though, really.
Although I have to say, poor deathbed communication just is running rampant in Westeros. I mean, this is right up there with the Seed is Strong. Why not just tell Sam what you mean by the riddle and the riddler? Why are you doing this? Why does everybody on their deathbed have to speak in riddles?
Just spit it out.
He told me to... Yeah. He told me to pee next to you. I don't know what he was talking about. All right, so that's it. That's the Feast for Crows. It was a hugely enjoyable book. Many people love it for its pace, which is definitely slower, I think, than the previous books. But that gives it depth. It's like a river. The early books are the bubbling brook coming down the mountainside, and now we're into the sort of like the flatlands, and we've got this great mighty river sort of plowing its course.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah,
I think that's where we are.
A Feast for Crows was actually part of A Dance with Dragons, and they made him split them up. So,
right.
I don't.
Hence the boiled leather.
Right, which I recommend highly. Yeah. I really enjoyed them.
Because that was his original
Yes.
pattern. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
was more like the boiled leather reed. Yeah.
And you've been doing that the whole time.
I
right,
have
Jen?
been doing
How's
that.
going?
December, Christmas came up, and I kind of that kind of fell by the wayside. I was really busy during the Christmas season, so I did kind of fall behind on that. But up until that point, yes, I was doing that boiled leather reading, and I do intend to finish it that way. I'm just a little bit behind.
All right.
Yeah. I do think though that his editors and publishers giving him license to be this slow and methodical and verbose, because I mean he did balloon that fourth book into this giant fourth and fifth book. They're partly to blame for this long hiatus now because he's, first of all, writing with this much depth. It's going to take a long time to tell such a big story.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But it also allowed him to create yet more tendrils that he's never going to be able to pull back together again. The tapestry is too rich,
But would you want to read it any other way?
I want everything, Jenny. I want the moon on a stick.
Exactly.
That's what I want.
Exactly.
But I did think it would be nice if when Winds of Winter is delivered that we get a white raven.
Yes.
That would be ideal.
Yes.
That's the way that it's announced. The
It's
white
not-
raven is sent to us.
To all fans, we'll get a white raven.
Exactly.
But so as we're ending A Feast for Crows, why don't we take a little bit here and look back at where these plot lines and characters are as we wrap them up versus where they were when we started this book.
Yep. So we opened with Damphair and the Ironborn, and we ended with your unpronounced king raiding under the raiding the underprotected reach. Victarion was asked to sail to win Dany for Euron's cause, and after the failed attempt at the Queen's moot, Asher has disappeared and Damphair too. So that's where they stand.
Yeah.
We met Eris Oakheart and Arianne Martell. Arianne's scheming compromised Doran's plan for the retribution on the Lannisters, and Eris is dead, so that didn't end up well. Bercella's disfigured. The Iron Throne might retaliate, and Doran is not prepared for that, and Quitton is off to win fire and blood.
Mm-hmm.
And Cersei, she was possibly the most central character in this whole book. She began a feast for crows as basically a puppet to her father Tywin. And then, right as the book opens, she discovers that Tywin is dead and it was Tyrion that killed him. And Tywin's death and Tyrion's escape really has transformed her in this book. Tywin's death has given her basically unchecked power, and anyone who had any backbone to stand up to her has either been removed one way or another, basically. I mean, Jaime was sent on this trip to the Riverlands because she was tired of him constantly checking her on things. And she's basically created unmitigated disasters, and almost all for self-serving purposes. She ended up arming the Faith, which now she's discovering was a really bad idea. She has stiffed the Iron Bank, which is also becoming a problem. And she's created this smallest council of yes-men. And, ultimately it's led to Marjorie's pretty much unfounded arrest. There's a little bit of smoke there, but it seems most of it was trumped up by Cersei. And then ultimately her own arrest. And, and so that's the one arm. And then the other side is Tyrion's escape, basically disturbing her to the point where she's having constant nightmares about Maggie the Frog and Tyrion. And she's created this worldwide hunt for basically all the dwarves in the known world are being rounded up, and it's certainly causing stress on her mentally.
Yeah. Brienne's the one that I like to gripe about. She kind of wandered aimlessly through Eastern Westeros. She made little to no progress towards her goal, which was to rescue the Stark girls. The only significant plot advancement there, her character sort of continued to develop, but the plot advancement was really her near-death encounter with Lady Stoneheart and what it means for her going forward, which if she keeps her new promise to Lady Stoneheart, presumably means she has to turn the tables on Jaime.
Right.
Which would be hard for her to do.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got Arya and Braavos, with supposedly nothing left for her there. Arya is now an acolyte of the House of Black and White, and she is currently blind. She cold-bloodedly killed Daeron and stole his boots.
That's right, she did steal his boots too. Yep. Insult to injury.
Yeah. All right, where does she go from there?
She's a tricky one. I thought it was fun learning about the House of Black and White in Braavos, but I am curious how they're going to tie her back into the main A Song of Ice and Fire story, because she's very isolated there in Braavos. So how are they going to work her back in?
Right.
Yeah, the obvious answer to that is that she becomes a faceless man and becomes an assassin, but it feels like she's a million miles away from that. It would take 20 years.
Yeah. She'll finish just about the time that Sam is finishing his chain.
Exactly.
And then Sansa, for most of this book, she was Elaine. She's embraced this Elaine thing like her father, in quotes. Peter Baelish has insisted that she does for her safety, of course. And speaking of Littlefinger, she is seemingly being groomed by him. Although, in an odd turn of events, he then betrothed her to someone else. I feel for her. She has very little agency of her own. She's being hunted by the Queen, so there's very few places and people that she can turn to. And about the betrothal, Littlefinger is always up to something. So why betroth her to Harry Harding if it seems he's in love with her, or at least has some sort of fascination with her? That's what we're going to have to see how it unfolds, I guess.
Yes.
Jaime weathered his father's death and his deteriorating relationship with Cersei. He did save the day in River Run without completely compromising his vows. His early chapters in this book were actually in King's Landing, which is sort of like, you get forgotten. It feels like he trudged around the Riverlands almost as long as Brienne did. But
yeah,
he continues to try to do the right things, not always successfully. And he is pretty much quagmired in the Riverlands, just like anybody who steps there at the moment, because it's so wet.
All of our Riverlands characters get bogged down there. Arya, Brienne, Jaime.
Yep.
It's even harder to recall that Sam and Gilly started this book at Castle Black. It seems like that was forever ago.
Yeah. Does, for sure.
They survived their journey to Oldtown, but it's been a heck of a ride. He lost his mentor and his virginity. Those seem like two way different ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
He's already embroiled in a plot at Oldtown. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to Sam.
Yeah, I guess he'll spend a decade forging a chain, and just life will go by. But, here we say adieu to many of these characters, because there's one little, I won't call it a chapter, because it's really just a page after this chapter in this book that George Martin writes, and it's called Meanwhile Back on the Wall, where he basically explains what Jenny was saying earlier, that A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons was originally one gigantic book that he cut into two books, but not by timeline. Rather, he did it by the characters, so that you could get at least a full scope of what these particular characters were up to in each of the two books. So because of that, many of the characters we came to know and love in this book will be absent in A Dance with Dragons when we're focusing on the characters who were absent from this book. But he does say in this little chapter here that late in the Dance with Dragons, the two timelines are going to sync up. And so some of the Feast for Crows characters will actually reappear by that point. And everything will be converged in time for Winds of Winter 20 years from now, or whenever we actually get it.
He didn't say that, but
no.
That's what he meant.
Yes.
Yeah. So up next is A Dance with Dragons. We can't wait. It'll just be me and Mackelly next week. Boo.
That's right.
But thank you for joining us, Jenny.
It's been fun.
I mean, this is a memorable pleasure.
Thanks, Simon.
This is an endeavor Simon will never forget.
Couldn't possibly, even if I tried.
Everybody check in 2 months. All right. There's 3 ways to help these jokers. You can leave them a review, preferably 5 stars, please.
Yes, thank you.
You can buy them an Arbor Gold at www.buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhall. You can join them at any of the various sustainer levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. Or you can make a donation directly to their cause at the website ghostsofharrenhall.buzzsprout.com.
And of course, if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, you can check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Archmaester Marwyn, it's me, Sam Tarly. I've come all the way from the wall to see you. It only took the whole book, and I had to go through Bravos? Maybe it's that whole you have to go east to get west? I don't know. Anyway, here's everything that's ever happened to me in my life.
Okay. You've got 2 weeks to forge your change. Get to it. I'm out.
Wait. Marwyn? Where is he going? Where's he going? Okay.
And scene.
All right.
That's awesome. We'll just get rid of the bit where you had to mouth the "I'm out" bit, which I
well
did.
done.
That's okay.
Well done.
All right, thanks, guys. This was fun.